another episode of the Fast Ratio. I'm Ric Marks, your host. Today we're going to have a discussion around a recent long ride that I did out to Hay in New South Wales. Those that are not familiar, Hay is almost towards the furthest point on the west of New South Wales. It's in the Narranderra region. We decided to head off at 5:20 approximately in the morning. From Canberra through to Yass, it was about, I think from memory, it was about -2. It was supposed to be 2 positive degrees Celsius, however it was -2. Fog had set in, which meant visibility from here through to Yass was almost 0. In which case we sat behind vehicles to provide us obviously buffer with wildlife. We did a temporary stopover in Yass to warm back up from the ride from Canberra and just do a regroup. So I think we took a bit of a longer break at that point and trying to ascertain whether or not we were still keen to keep going. So the ride itself was between 11 and 1200 kilometres, which there was previously a group called Far Rider, and that was to do 1000 kilometres in a 24-hour window. It would get you, I guess, an accreditation or a worthiness stamp. However, Far Rider, with COVID and all the other world happenings, it stopped a number of years ago. However, my father has done, I think he stated 2 Far Rider rides in the past. So he, I haven't done one yet, hadn't done one. I love a challenge. For those that don't know, I've done a half marathon, I've done a couple of triathlons. I love a challenge and I love pushing a limit. So we set out to do this ride of between 11 and 1200 kilometres. It was from here down to Wagga, stopping over at Dog on the Tuck Box. And by the time we reached there, sunrise was happening and things were starting to, I guess, the cold snap. So often overnight everything will get cool, and then there's almost like that last hour before sunrise and like temperatures severely drop. So that was the point that it severely dropped between Yass and Gundagai, and there's the Dog on the Tuck Box. That's one of the most well-known points, or it's a hot tourist destination. So we pulled over in there, had a quick break, warmed up our legs, did a couple of laps of the bike just to get the blood flow happening again, and then we headed off from Gundagai, Dog on the Tuck Box. We headed on to Wagga Wagga. Now, up until Dog on the Tuck Box, I don't have any video. It was pretty much dark for the most part, on headlights. It was wet, it was quite cold. When I say it was wet, it wasn't raining, it was more just that the mist and the fog had created our visors had to keep trying to get them wiped. So I wasn't fast on getting footage up until the sun came up. So we headed on into Wagga.
We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. You and I, we got it. We don't need no more. Even in the
Wagga, and that was fuel stop number 1. So we'd done a fuel stop in Canberra, started off with a full run, got down to Wagga, pulled in, got another fill up there, and from there our fuel was going to get us through to Hay. We headed on. There's a number of towns we go through from Wagga. Darlington Point is one of that was going to be our crossover, because it's sort of like a figure 8 that we're going to do. And then out through Narranderra, and when you actually go into Narranderra, you kind of bypass the town itself. We got to Hay, it was around lunchtime. So we made that our major stop for the day. When we had sat down and mapped out, we planned the route. Hay was another fuel up point. Then we were going to go from there on to Deniliquin. We headed off after lunch and forgot the fuel up, because we went, oh yeah, it's only 120 kilometres on to Deniliquin. It's not that far, we'll be right. We didn't actually kind of, I think, do the sums, look at the fuel left, look at we should have just gone with what our original plans were. When we sat down, we mapped out the whole ride in general, and we went, we need to do a fuel up, we'll get the fuel anyway. So we headed on to Deniliquin, and we I reckon somewhere between a third and half, and that's when my dad called me and was kind of going on, I'm down to 2 bars left now. 2 bars represents about 90 kilometres, and we had 110, give or take, left of our ride. So we went, probably not worth doing continuing on, probably better to turn around and head back. So it would have been 120 kilometres on from Hay to Deniliquin, because that doesn't compute. Anyhow, so we decided our best option at this point was to turn back around, and we knew that we'd potentially get back into Hay or just shy of Hay, so like 5k out. And both my father and I aren't afraid to do a 5 kilometre run. With bike gear, it's a different challenge. However, we both kind of went, that's better known than the unknown of if we head on to Deniliquin, we could come up 20k short. So probably not worth continuing on and riding until we go dry. So in saying that, we turned around and we headed back in, slipstreaming cars and stuff to try and reduce the fuel, trying not to be too aggressive on the throttle, trying to keep our revs low as such, to do all the things you can possibly do to try and keep fuel economy at its optimum. 10k's out from the return to Hay, we had our fuel light flashing essentially, and that kind of alerted us. We weren't sure how far we would get once it goes on to reserve as such. At which point, yes, we were still 10k's out, and this is when we were like slipstreaming cars. We were doing everything we could to try and get to Hay. Thankfully, we got into Hay on the outskirts towards Deniliquin. There is a petrol station, so we pretty much pulled in there and we fueled up. Now the fascinating thing, and I still don't know now what it is, but my dad always manages to use an additional half litre of fuel to myself. Now our bikes are identical, age is slightly different, kilometres is vastly different, exhausts, we both got non-standard exhausts. I got the Dolphin, he's got the Stain Tune. So the only thing I can put it down to is that I've done the airbox mods and the basic stuff on the VFR. He hasn't. So not sure per fill up. I'm still coming in using half a litre less than he does, and it's literally a half litre. We're not talking about a variable, it's every fill up. So at that point we fueled up. I did 19 litres of fuel, and the tank itself's 22. So I had 3 litres still to go, which really in the grand scheme of things is quite a fair amount. But for those that are interested, we managed to get 350 kilometres off that tank of petrol. So looking into it later, there's a lot of speculation that you're lucky to get 320 kilometres off a full tank on a VFR, that spec. So we've now set the bar at 350, and if you're interested, I'm contemplating whether or not I do a dry ride from full to empty to see what I can get. If I get enough comments and enough interest, then we can see what we can pull together. See where I can strand myself. So we fueled up at Hay, and I said, well, I'm not too keen on rewriting now back down to Deniliquin and doing that. So out in the middle of in that area, it's plains. You can see forever, there's no mountains. It was quite nice because it's thoughtless. However, yeah, I wasn't seeing much benefit to rewriting a whole section of road at that point. So we kind of went, all right, how can we remap? Now, I use Scenic as the app that I use, and I mapped out the whole ride, including the stops, including waypoints, and it's fantastic. I like it. The only thing I didn't appreciate is Scenic itself try to encourage short rides. So for my father and I, when we're trying to do these longer ones, when I save the route, it's warning, 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 it's not advised that you do this kind of distance. This is a multi-day ride, it could jam up and freeze within the app. There's a lot of precautions around it, and I kind of find that to be a little bit off-putting for myself, because I don't want it to jam up and I don't want it to lose my data. But I really enjoy being able to review and look at how the ride went. And that's how I look at it and go, we made it about a third to halfway to Deniliquin.